Mr. Casper?
Here.
Mrs. Cullen? Here. Mr. Krause? Yardley? Dr. Yarnell?
Here. Thank you. At this point, the first matter of business tonight is to have new members and re-elected members of the board be sworn into office. Judge Baum, you are here tonight.
I understand I need all the new and re-elected board members down front here, please. We're going to get a picture of everybody one time. Yeah. Yeah, you're the shortest. There you go. That's one. Break that out, Joe. You want to come up? There you go. You're good.
All right, would you raise your right hand and repeat after me, please? I, and state your name,
I, Peter Yarnell,
having been elected to the office of school director
having been elected to the office of school director
for the school district of Pennridge,
for the school district of Pennridge,
county of Bucks,
county of Bucks,
and state of Pennsylvania,
and state of Pennsylvania,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Very good. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you. My pleasure. Great job. All right. My pleasure indeed. Thank you. They have Anita has your certificate of send, and you're going to need to sign. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll send it to you.
All right, with everyone sworn in, I would like to call for nominations for a temporary president to preside over the reorganization of the school board.
I nominate Mrs. Miller.
Do we have a second to that nomination?
Second.
Do we have any other nominations? If not, do we have a motion to close the nominations? Mr. Casper says yes. Second? All in favor? Aye. Motion to nominate Mrs. Miller. Mrs. Miller, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I wasn't given directions on how to do this, so I assume I nominate, are they here? Oh, they're in the packet.
Here.
Call for nominations for president to serve for a term of 1 year. I nominate Peter Yarnell. Any seconds? A second. Motion to close the nominations? Oh, or any other nominations? No? Motion to close the nominations.
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Mrs. Cullen. Call for a vote. Oh, sorry, there's only one nomination. I'm reading this as I go here. Anita, do you want to do a roll call vote for Mr. Yarnell, Dr. Yarnell? Where is he?
Can't hurt.
We don't.
Can't hurt. Just do all those in favor. Mrs. Miller, you can just ask for all those in favor to say aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Peter, do you do the vice president, or do I do that as well?
You do it.
Okay,
Until the
thank you.
meeting is closed.
Call for nomination for vice president to serve for a term of 1 year.
I nominate Mr. Casper.
Any seconds?
I will second the nomination.
Okay, so Barry Casper is our vice president, and
You need to ask if anyone else would like to run for that office.
You really should have told me about this before you
If I had known, I would have
set
told
me
you.
up.
Mrs. Miller, you can ask if there are any other nominations.
Any other nominations for vice president? Thank you, Mr. Krause. Seeing none, Barry Casper is our...
I move that the nominations be closed.
I move that, thank you. Do I have a second? We have a second, Mr. Krause. Okay.
And then all those in favor can say aye. Mrs. Miller.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Yarnell, do you want to take this away?
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that, Mrs. Brown. At this point, I will adjourn the reorganization meeting, and we'll move to the regular board meeting, the regular meeting agenda for December 1. Once again, I will call the meeting to order. And Mrs. Cron, would you again do the roll call, please?
Mrs. Manis Clemens? Here. Mr. Casper?
Here.
Mrs. Cullen? Here. Mr. Krause?
Here.
Mrs. Miller? Here. Mr. Agomo?
Here.
Mrs. Schmidt? Here. Mrs. Yardley? Here. Dr. Yarnell?
Here. Thank you. First order of business is recognition of two of our mechanics. Dr. Radigan, I presume you are going to take the lead on this.
I will, Dr. Yarnell, thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Daubert, our business manager, and Mr. Carl Duke, our lead mechanic, to join me down at the podium, please. Back on November 16th, we had an incident that occurred over at our bus garage. And on any given day, you never know what incidents are going to happen and which people are going to step up to the plate and actually go above and beyond the call of duty. On that particular day, Mr. Brian Geiger, our interim director of transportation, became aware of the fact that one of our buses was smoking that was in the parking lot. Fortunately, two of our mechanics, Andrew Smutnik and Ken Gilbert, were with him and immediately ran to the bus, put themselves in danger, investigated, determined the problem, that there was a fire in the rear brakes, and they put the fire out. Their fast action saved the district several hundred thousands of dollars in potential damage because there were other buses parked next to that bus. So we would like to take this opportunity to call them forward and give them a certificate of recognition for their great efforts. Please come up, Andrew and Ken. I'll just read what this says. Their certificate says, Certificate of Achievement from the Pennridge School District presented to these gentlemen for acting quickly to resolve a situation that could have proved costly for the district. Thank you for contributing to the superb handling of the incident. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you, gentlemen, for protecting the district's property. The board obviously appreciates that greatly. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Radigan. We'll now move to comments and questions from guests. Please state your name and municipality of residence, 3 minutes maximum time. Do I hear or see anyone who would like to speak at the beginning of this meeting? If not, we'll move to the consent calendar. Consent calendar, as listed on the agenda, consists of items A through J. including the minutes of 2 meetings, a meeting and a special meeting, a number, I believe there are 5 bills lists, the financial report, budget transfers, and a personnel report. No EDR report on tonight's consent calendar. Are there any items either on the agenda or within the agenda for the consent calendar that board members want voted on separately? If not, do I have a motion to approve all items A through J on the consent calendar? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. And a second? Mrs. Yardley, thank you also. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. At this point, we'll move on to the student liaison report. I believe Mr. Carey is in attendance tonight. So, Mr. Carey.
So Harvest Breakfast had a good turnout on November 24th, and we have our blood drive on December 10th. We don't have much else coming up for the winter, but we have a lip sync battle planned for early spring.
Thank you. Can you tell us what the hours of the blood drive are? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just wondered what they were.
I think it's during the school day. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. President's report. Tonight, I would like to congratulate our 3 new board members, Mrs. Dana Clemens, Mrs. Cullen, and Mr. Krause. And I look forward to working with you. Welcome to the board. I know it's a big transition going from sitting in the audience to sitting behind the desk. Hopefully the rest of the remaining board members can help in anything that you need help on, and we look forward to working together, so congratulations on coming here. I do not have a right to know report tonight, so we'll move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Radigan.
Okay, thank you again, Dr. Yarnell. I'd like to thank the Grass Elementary School for the district office meeting room displays this month. Speaking of this month, December 1st today, our Takes Pride theme for this month is empathy. Today, our students were reminded that empathy means identifying with and understanding another's situation or feelings. People who are empathetic show compassion for others. They are able to share, as examples, the sadness or happiness of others. One of the reasons we have selected this theme is a recent research study showed that college students, freshmen, empathy levels are the lowest they've been in about 30 years. So we know it's important to help our students build these important skills that will help them not only after high school, but in whatever endeavors they choose to follow. We have several points of pride this evening. 8 high school senior student athletes announced their college choices recently. Kyle Gentile, wrestling at Lehigh University. Megan Griffin and Larissa Motz, both field hockey, Mansfield University. Danny Long, baseball, Monmouth University. Jenna Richardson, field hockey, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Riley Dolan, water polo, Wagner College. Hannah Zermel, swimming, Penn State University. And Brittany Weiss, swimming, Liberty University. So best wishes to all. Congratulations to seniors Nick Myers and Jay Brusella, who were selected Students of the Month at the Upper Bucks County Technical School for October and November, respectively. Nick is a distinguished Level 4 electrical technology student. He has earned first honors at Tech and distinguished honors here at the high school. Nick was inducted into the National Honor Society for his scholastic excellence, skill development, honesty, service, leadership, citizenship, and individual responsibility to the community. Jay spent his first year and a half at the tech school in the construction program, but then switched to baking and pastry arts. He is currently in his 2nd full year in the program and is by far the most dedicated student Chef Penn has ever had. More news from the tech school. 30 students recently attended a professional development conference at Kalahari Resorts. While there, they worked on essential communication, leadership, and team-building skills needed in the workforce. All attendees also met with industry leaders about their careers, career paths, and what it is like being on the job. As part of the program, 3 of our students were elected district officers. Mariah Bryson, Vice President, Mason Sheets, Parliamentarian,
and Sarah Leibel, reporter. Do you know a Pennridge grad who is doing great things? Someone who is doing something above and beyond to make the world a better place. Someone who's using hard work, creativity, and dedication to maximize their abilities? If so, the district would like to hear from you. Nominations are now being accepted for the 2016 Pennridge High School Wall of Fame induction on Thursday, March 31st. The deadline for submitting a nomination is January 4th. Criteria for inclusion on the Wall of Fame is stringent. Nominees must have graduated from Pennridge High School, be at least 22 years old. No posthumous nominations will be accepted, and having demonstrated exceptional achievement in a career and/or contributed significantly to the health, welfare, or human rights of the local, state, national, or international community. Congratulations to the Pennridge Marching Rams for their silver medal winning performance in the Cavalcade of Bands Patriot A Division competition Saturday in Hershey. In a season characterized by adversity, this accomplishment is a testament to the dedication and hard work of our band members. To say it was against the odds would be an understatement. Nevertheless, Pennridge pride triumphed and the band came home winners. The Pennridge Percy Rotary Club will honor 4 seniors with its Student of the Month award at a dinner on December 10th in Percy. The students to be recognized for their academic, athletic, and/or community service activities are Adam Koch, September, Danielle Levin-Glickstein, October, Silas Gruslow, November, and Victoria Arnold for December. Finally, if you are looking for the perfect Christmas gift, consider giving a paver that will be installed on the Path of Pride at home and field. If you attended the Thanksgiving Day game, you may have noticed the wonderful job Brian Moser and some of his students from the tech school did in creating the Path of Pride. We'll be thanking them publicly at a future board meeting. Pavers come in 2 sizes and can be engraved with a personal message honoring someone special for all time. Information about ordering a paver is available on our website under the Rams on the Ridge Capital Campaign. And there's a link there, or you can see Mr. Furry after the meeting. Thank you, Dr. Yarnell.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move to committee reports, and the first one is activities, and that would be Mrs. Yardley.
Okay, the Activities Committee met on November 11th, and I have 2 motions tonight. The first motion is to approve the following overnight trip request. The Pennridge High School baseball team Beaver Run trip, Friday, March 18th, 2016 to Sunday, March 20th, 2016.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Casper. Moved and seconded to approve the PHS baseball team trip. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Yardley?
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2015-16 calendar update.
Do we have a second to that motion? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved and seconded to approve the update on the 2015-16 calendar. Comments or questions from board members?
Dr. Price, could you explain to everyone the change in the calendar so the public understands?
Sure. The change is for Thursday, March 24th. That was previously listed as a student holiday and staff in-service day. That has now been changed per the new collective bargaining agreement to read student holiday and staff holiday. The only other changes on there would be the total number of staff days that month and the total number for the year.
Any other comments or questions? Not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Yardley?
Okay, the next Activities Committee meeting is scheduled for January 13th, 2016.
Thank you. Curriculum. The Curriculum Committee did meet on November 16th, 2015. 2 basic areas were discussed, the first being the survey called the PAYS survey that is being proposed to be administered to students in various grades at Pennridge, and the second being numbers of program improvement proposals. This area is something that is discussed generally every November, December, January, and 2 of our curriculum meetings. and it collectively is under the program improvement budget that has been in place for 15 years and is a fixed number. So obviously, interested parties and topics need to compete for those dollars. So tonight I'll have motions for both of those things. The first motion that I'm going to make is to administer this PAYS survey in grades 6, 8, 10, and 12 at Pennridge. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. We'll move to the second motion, which is to approve the first segment of program improvement proposals as discussed at the November 16th board meeting. Do I have a second to that? And they are items A.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Sorry, I thought there was a time in between the first one and the second one. I had the opportunity to see a demonstration on Canvas over the weekend, and I was really impressed with a lot of things that it has to offer. And you know, I was also able to follow up, and Dr. Scheid was able to give me a lot of great information on a lot of the programs that are being proposed here. Even after getting answers to all of my questions, it gave me more questions, and as a new person, and these being such big programs, and given the fact that we have a curriculum meeting scheduled on December 7th, I would like to make a motion to table this so that we could have some more discussion on this on the 7th and then vote on this on the 14th.
Are you talking about simply the Canvas program, item item I, or the entire set of program improvement proposals? What is your proposal?
I didn't know if I had to do the whole motion or if I could do more specifically. It doesn't.
I think in this case, some of these are time sensitive because of students making decisions for course selection and the course selection booklet that needs to come out. So if there's something that you're uncomfortable with, Mrs. Clements, I would suggest that you pick that and ask that we withhold that rather than withholding the entire collection of items.
Okay, I would make a motion to table F, G, H, and I.
Okay, so there is no motion on the table yet, so just hold that thought. I will make the motion to approve the following program improvement proposals, which include A through E first. So I'd like to make that motion, and is there a second for A through E?
I'm sorry, do we vote on those individually, or are we voting on that as an entirety?
A through E?
Yeah,
Well, the way the motion was made, it as an entirety.
okay, because there's certain aspects, I didn't know if you could vote on different ones and not all of them.
Well, we could break them all up into all different, each one being a motion. Typically, we do not. Typically, we ask for, the motion, and you could vote no if you don't want to, accept one or more of those things, or you could vote yes.
Okay, I guess I would have different votes depending on if they were broken up, so it's up to you how you vote.
I'm sorry, I thought what you had requested was F through I.
Right,
the
I understand.
The ones that you need more information on. Isn't that what you said?
That is what I said. I'm sorry, if you want to, I guess, add C to that?
Okay. So then I'll amend my motion to the A, B, D, and E for approval up front. And do I have a second for the motion with A, B, D, and E?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Member. All right, now, comments or questions from board members on those 4 items on this agenda? If none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Now, the next one, and Mrs. Clements, I will make the motion to approve, since this is what came out of the curriculum committee meeting, to approve items C, F, G, H, and I. Do I have a second to that motion? Yes, thank you, Mr. Smith. Second. Now, if you want to ask to the table, now's the time.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to table this so that we can have more discussion at the curriculum meeting.
Okay, do you have a second to the motion to table?
I'll second
Thank you, Mr. Krause. Moved and seconded, motion to table these 5 items C, F, G, H, and I. Now, we'll take Mrs. Yardley, comments before we take the vote?
Yeah, I do have a comment.
Okay.
The guitar building course is letter G, and I believe that would be time sensitive since that's a course, and I don't know that there's any more information that needs to be had about that course. So I don't know if that should be.
That was going to be my comment as well. I feel that that's time sensitive, and I think that at the meeting, Mr. Andrikaitis went into detail quite a bit and explained about the course, the cost, and so forth. So I think that, you know, that's definitely, letter G is time sensitive.
So it doesn't sound like there's, doesn't not sound like there's agreement on this, but let me call the motion for the tabling. Obviously, a yes means it will be tabled, no means that it will not be tabled. And then if there's not support for the tabling motion, we'll go back to making a motion to approve these. So I'm going to call for the motion to table. All those in favor?
Yeah,
Opposed? Aye. Nay. So opposed.
Could I propose the motion without letter G, since that's a concern?
Well, I think at this point, Mrs. Clemens, we should, since the tabling motion failed, we should move forward. I'm going to make the motion to approve, because it, or at least I did make the motion. We go back to discussion on items C, F, G, H, and I, which are on the table now as a motion. Do you want to, you've commented that you think you need more information to make the decision, correct? Any other comments on the motion before I make the call for the question? Anyone else have comments or questions on the motion as it stands? If not, I'm going to call the question. Now, we're voting on item C, F, G, H, and I, approval as part of the program improvement proposals. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so motion passes 7-2. Thank you. We'll move on to the next curriculum committee meetings is scheduled for December 7th. There will be additional program improvement proposals, I believe, Dr. Scheid, on that agenda.
Yes, there will.
That night, and some other things. So we will be continuing to discuss this. I would note that, as always, these proposals are contingent on approval of budgetary funds for them. As I mentioned at the start, this is a separate segment of the budget that is generally allotted $300,000 per year. It has not been increased in the last 15 years. And obviously, all the proposals have to fit in with that, under that umbrella, unless Dr. Scheid, Dr. Radigan come before the board and ask for more proposals, more money. But I believe in this case, that is the plan, to come in at or below the $300,000. And so it will be part of the budget discussion, not just here. But we're approving these preliminarily to therefore put them within Dr. Radigan's proposed budget when it comes before the board. And as a reminder, this year, because of the presidential election and the primary being accelerated to the fourth Tuesday in April in Pennsylvania, this pushes the entire budget process forward and forces us to immediately start actual decision-making on the budget itself. In fact, the first point of decision is early, very early in January. So Mr. Daubert is working on that process to bring the information before the board, and I suspect you'll see that in the Finance Committee meeting on the 14th, correct? So more to come. All right, thank you. I will next move to the Facilities Committee meeting, and that's Mr. Casper.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Facilities Committee met on November 9th. There's 2 motions on the agenda tonight. First motion is to obsolete items A through F.
Do I have a second to the motion for obsolete items? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved and seconded. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Casper.
Thank you. Second motion is to accept and award the following bid, 16-120.
Do we have a second to that motion to accept the bid for school buses and transportation vans?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Regola. Moved and seconded. Comments or questions from board members on the bus bid? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Casper.
Thank you. The next Facilities Committee meeting is scheduled for December 14th.
Thank you. Finance Committee meeting. I will do this since Mr. Sardis is no longer sitting on the board. The Finance Committee met on November 9th, 2015, and discussed a number of items, including those that are listed below as motions. The first motion is the motion pertaining to contracts. There are a number of these, as you can see, items A through I. So I would like to make a motion to approve the contracts listed in items A through I. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Casper. Moved and seconded to approve contracts. Comments or questions for board members on any or all of these items? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. The second motion is to approve settlement agreements, and they're identified as 2016-20 and 2016-21. Do I have a second to approve these settlement agreements?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved and seconded to approve the settlement agreements. Comments or questions from board members? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Third motion is to approve student activity account request. This is a new request for the high school key club. So I make that as a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. Moved and seconded to approve the activity account for the high school key club. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. My final motion is to accept and award the following. It's RFP 16-19, and it's for snow removal services at the transportation bus lot. Do I have a second to that motion? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved and seconded to approve the snow removal services RFP. Comments or questions from board members? Yes, Mr. Krause.
Yes, sir. On the snow removal, is that open-ended, or does that have a not-to-exceed amount attached to it? It's an hourly
Hopefully,
rate.
Mr. Dalbert can answer that question.
It does not have an amount to exceed because we don't know how much snow, how much we'll need the service, but it is a service that is provided on an as-need basis based on a phone call or a contact from our administration over there at the bus shed. They'll make the determination if the service is needed or not, and then bring them in. You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. The next Finance Committee meeting, as noted previously, will be held in conjunction with the Facilities Committee meeting on December 14th, 2015. One of those meetings will start at 6:30. The other will follow immediately. There also will be a special board meeting that night. I'm not sure whether that's going to be at the front or back end, but we'll let you know. Front end? Okay, the plan is for the special board meeting to be first, followed by Finance and Facilities. The intermediate unit is next. Mrs. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. Instead of our annual visit to Tawanka, we met at Samuel Everett Elementary School in the Chamonix School District on November 17th. We were all astonished by the Herculean effort to ready the school in time for the 2015-16 school year. In less than 2 months, the school was clean, painted, polished, and updated. As the previous tenant was moving out one door, the IU was moving in right behind it. It appeared to the board, to all of us, as if the school had been in operation for years, so kudos to the IU team. In addition to the new building, a variety of enhancements were made that will positively impact programming and services for all students. Technology is now integrated into the classrooms to enhance learning through smart boards, interactive boards, smart tables, and smart document cameras. Security measures were improved through two-way radios and cameras, allowing communication throughout the school and to an off-site location. More than 300 children receive services at Samuel Everett through early childhood, school age, and itinerant programs. Programs and services include autistic support, behavior analysis, counseling, social work services, developmental support, behavioral support, emotional support, Head Start programs, diagnostic services, hearing and vision support, audiological services, as well as OT, PT, and speech therapy. This array of services is, of course, a valuable asset to our districts and our families. As cited in the Intelligencer, the IU hosted the Secondary Transition Options and Resource Fair on November 12th for our students and young adults with special needs who are transitioning into adulthood. Representatives from community support and employment agencies, colleges, and trade schools provided information and options to students and families. It was well attended, participants were appreciative, and the fair was deemed an overall success. On the other side of the coin, the IU hosted a Challenging the Gifted conference. It was scheduled for November 18th, and the IU is expecting 200 attendees. The keynote speaker was Dr. Brian Kent Wallace, who spoke on educating world-class minds, making the STEM connections for the gifted. Dr. Wallace is the Director of Physics Laboratories at Fisk University in Nashville. Tuesday, January 19th is our next meeting at 7 p.m. in the IU location at 705 Shady Retreat Road. Thank you, Dr. Yarnell.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Miller. We'll move next to personnel, and that would be Mr. Reorganization.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Personnel Committee met on November 11, 2015. The first motion is to approve the following revised job descriptions, A through F.
Do we have a second to the job description motion? Mrs. Cullen, thank you. Moved and seconded to approve these job descriptions. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Reorganization?
Thank you. The second motion is to approve the PSBA VUCS Better Unemployment Compensation Program.
Do we have a second to that motion? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved and seconded to approve the BUCS Better Unemployment Compensation Program. Comments or questions for board members? Mr. Gasker.
I have a question for Mr. Dauber, and I apologize, I meant to call you about this. Is this a one-year thing? 1 year? Are you familiar with this at all? Is this, we're agreeing for 1 year?
It renews annually. So we would like to vote on this again next year.
Okay, that's my question.
Any other comments or questions for board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Gilman?
The next Personnel Committee meeting is scheduled for January 13, 2016.
Thank you. Policy review, Mrs. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Policy Review Committee met on November 11th, 2015. The first motion is to recommend second reading approval of the following policies, A through D.
Thank you. Do we have a second to the motion approving second reading and approval, which means these will become policies if approved tonight? Do we have a second to this? Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. Moved and seconded to do the second reading approval process for the items A through D. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Miller.
The next motion is to recommend the first reading of the following policies, A through C.
Do we have a second to the first reading of policies A through C?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. Moved and seconded. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Casper.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I think I understand this correctly. Right now, we have over 900 certified volunteers in our school district. That came up at one of our meetings. The difficult task it is, how difficult it is to get sort of a burden on the volunteers, and it kind of scares some of the people off, no doubt. But somehow our volunteers are doing it. I think we have over 900 now.
Actually, last count was 1,003.
Could you speak up, please? Can't hear you.
1,003 volunteers that have their clearances. So that's pretty good news for us, I think. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this motion to approve the first reading? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. At this point, Mrs. Miller?
The next policy review committee meeting is scheduled for January 13th.
Thank you. The Upper Bucks County Vocational School, Technical School Committee, Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Upper Bucks County Technical School Committee actually met twice during the month of November. The first was on November 2nd, which was a special meeting, mostly devoted to change orders for the current construction project. The regular monthly meeting was then held on November 19th at the tech school. As Dr. Radigan stated, October and November, both students of the month were from Pennridge. Just a brief summary on the construction. As of 11/1, there were at that point 7 weeks remaining to complete the construction project with an estimated completion date of December 18th. At that point, we were told that they were on target for that date. So that put them at approximately 85% of the construction completed. And on a cost basis, they were at 95%. And the next meeting for the tech school is scheduled for December 17th at 7:30.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt, and I would simply note that meeting will also constitute a reorganization meeting for the technical schools as well. The Technology Committee, the chair, Mr. Thompson, obviously is not with us tonight. He's left the board. The next committee meeting is scheduled for December 7th. I believe Dr. Scheid does not have at this point any agenda items that will not be included in the curriculum. Am I correct?
You are correct. Yes,
So
Dr. Young.
that will be a combined meeting at best, and maybe not a technology meeting at all, just for the information. So there will be, the next one will be as scheduled. At this point, the Ad Hoc Fundraising Committee, Mrs. Yardley, Mrs. Schmidt.
No, as Dr. Radigan stated, the Path of Pride has been installed. So that's good news. And the next committee meeting will be scheduled as needed. I don't know if you want to go back to Act 48.
I was going to
I'm sorry, I
Act
skipped
48.
that. I
That's
apologize,
okay.
and I do want to. I would like to ask, do we know roughly how many pavers were installed?
I can speak to the path out there. At this time, what the students did was they actually installed the complete path. So
Okay.
there is a combination of engraved pavers and unengraved pavers. So as they're sold, they're able to be pulled, engraved, and placed back in there. But the students did do really a fantastic job out there from the tech school.
Good. That's wonderful to hear. We'll have to make sure that that is known at the tech school as well as here. So now, back to Act 48. Mrs. Schmidt?
Act 48 did not meet. The next meeting is scheduled for January 14th, 2016.
Next item is old business. I would note that for this afternoon, I've sent all the board members via email a request for committee preferences. If you will, please fill that out, return it, hopefully by the end of the week if you can, either to Mrs. Cron or to me, whoever you prefer to do so. And that will facilitate selecting the new committees as soon as possible. The first committee meeting, of course, is the curriculum meeting on the 7th. So I thank you for that. Any other old business that board members have? If not, then we'll move to announcements. There has been a special board meeting scheduled for December 14th, 2015. It will start at 6:30 p.m. for the purpose of personnel matters and other general business of the district. It will obviously be in combination with the facilities and finance meetings that will follow it. The next regular school board meeting is scheduled for January 25th, 2016 at 7 p.m. in this room here in the high school. There will be an executive session following tonight's meeting for the purpose of personnel matters. Back to public comment. Anyone? Mrs. Harry, you know the drill.
Good evening, Diane Herring, Hilltown Township. In relation to the comments regarding volunteers, I asked several months back regarding the district issuing or providing volunteers some sort of identification. I received a letter via email from the Pennridge School District approximately 10 days ago that updated everyone as to the standard of how to submit your volunteer request information. However, it didn't clarify for those of us who have already submitted it if we do or do not need now to resubmit it to the district administration office since we originally submitted it at the building level. It also did not address whether the district was or was not going to be providing any sort of identification. I was wondering if we've made any progress on that.
Mrs. McHale, could you at least address some of that, if not all?
Okay, right, so we collected all of those volunteer clearances from the buildings and brought them to the district administration office and verified the clearances, which is what formed that spreadsheet with the 1,000 plus volunteers.
Okay.
So anyone on that list has been verified and cleared to be a volunteer in the school district. In regard to the identification badges, we're looking at 2 different angles on that, so we're not really ready to move forward on that yet, but hopefully in the near future.
Okay. So is there a way for a person such as myself who submitted it to various buildings, who has children in various buildings, to make sure that the district actually has that record? Like, I know that I handed it into the high school, but is there a way to make sure that I'm on your list or your spreadsheet?
Sure, absolutely. You could email myself or Joanne at the district administration office. She's there in the morning. She's the receptionist. She would be able to provide you that information. Actually, myself or Donna Shepis in HR.
Okay, thank you very much.
And also, the building levels can as well. Each of the principals receives an updated spreadsheet every Friday that tells them what volunteers were added.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Herrick. Anyone else? If not, press. Comments from the press? We have the press. We do. They're not standing up and shouting, so we'll move on. At this point, we are adjourned. Thank you for coming tonight. We will have this executive session immediately following the meeting.